Have you fallen and you can't get up?
My leg!
Do you or someone you know have Parkinson's disease?
Or are you a practicing clinician that needs more information?
Is your name Nancy? If so, we have the thing for you. It's a cat.
What's a cat?
No, not that kind of cat. A cat. A critically appraised topic. It's a summary of the best available evidence that's patient-focused and gets to a clinical bottom line.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, so we should get to it.
Hi Nancy, we're going to be your physical therapist for the day.
Hi, nice to meet you too, Nancy.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you know, my name's Nancy. I've been retired for a few years now. I was fortunate enough to have a job that I was working in an office, and years I've just been, doing a little traveling here and there, hanging out with the grandkids. Most of the time, I'll either go on light hikes with my family when it's not too hot out, or I'll go swimming at the recreational center. Just kind of down. I had fallen while I was hiking, and I went to go see a doctor after that because it was Parkinson's disease, and we started on a medication regimen. And I went to a PT clinic before this, but I really didn't find it to be that helpful, and so I got a new referral to come see you guys.
Okay. Can you tell me more about the fall?
At Red Rock, and we were on just this really light hike. It was only a couple miles, and she was behind me, and she was with the kids, and she said that I was stepping over a rock, and I remember trying to step over the rock, and then all of a sudden I just found myself on the ground, and when I asked my daughter what happened, she said that I just seemed like I kind of stopped moving, and I kind of froze, and I just tipped over, and I don't even remember doing that, and it was really...
Okay, Nancy, what are some goals that you have, or what do you want to get out of coming to physical therapy?
I'll be able to get back to doing, or just being able to go to the store comfortably and not worry about falling when I go to step over a curb, or have stuff of my own again would be nice. And I also have grandkids, and I want to be able to hang out with them and not worry about whether I'm going to fall, because I have to take care of a 6-year-old. I want to get back to being a little bit more independent and less scared of walking around.
Right. Do you have any experience with playing video games?
I used to play video games a long time ago, probably before any of you were even around, and I used to play Call of Duty, and what was that? And I was really good at Rainbow Six, I'll tell you what. So I have experience with video games. It's been a long time since I played them.
All right. Well, there's some new research about Parkinson's disease and using it with video games to help with balance and gait. Do you want to maybe try it out?
So using video, I'm not really sure. You said there was new research. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course.
The first article of our CAP was a single-blinded, randomized controlled trial of 32 patients that were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The patients' ages range from 60 to 85. They had no other underlying neurological disorders or orthopedic diseases, and they were also being treated with the medication levodopa. The study lasted 7 weeks, and the treatments were 2 times a week for 1-hour sessions. And each session was broken up into 30-minute treatments where patients were did global exercises that were an active warm-up, limb resistance exercises, and exercises in a diagonal plane for the trunk, neck, and limbs. The balance exercises consisted of different exercises that tested dynamic balance, static balance, and stationary gait. So the experimental group that used the WeFit board performed 2 trials of 5 exercises on the WeFit games. The first trial was not recorded, and the physical therapist provided verbal cues on posture control and also instruction on how to perform the game well. The second trial, the therapist provided no verbal feedback, and the scores were recorded for that game. The control group performed exercises that the physical therapist deemed were similar in time constraints and motor demands of the Wii Fit games. The primary outcomes of this study were to determine if the Nintendo Wii Fit games improved patients' ability to perform independently in their activities of daily living. The secondary outcomes were if patients improved in their dynamic balance, their static balance, and these were assessed using the Berg Balance Scale and the Unipedal Stance Test with both eyes open and eyes closed. The results of this study showed that before any treatment was given to the intervention group or the control group, there was no significant difference in the abilities of the patients. After using repeated measures analysis of variance with the data collected from the treatments and at 60-day follow-up, both groups showed a significant improvement in the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale after treatment and 60 days following up after that. It was also found that both the experimental and the control group showed significant improvement in the Berg Balance Test and the Unipedal Stance Test. Throughout this study, there were a few limitations. One limitation was that there was no real control group, since both the experimental group and the control group were receiving standard global exercises and then some type of balance therapy, whether it was the Nintendo Wii Fit board or balance-based exercises given by the physical therapist. Another limitation was that the external cues were given to patients in the experimental group on how well they were doing or correcting their posture, but there was no external cues given to patients in the control group, which shows that there's a difference in the treatment that each group was given and can lead to experimental bias on the intervention side. Another limitation was that the activities in the control group, the balance activities, were not described in detail, so we don't know exactly what they did. Although they mentioned that they were of similar motor demands, we don't know exactly what exercises they performed, which makes it difficult to recreate the study and use these exercises in your own physical therapy practice.
So one of the other articles that we found used a device called the Microsoft Kinect. It uses sensors to track infrared light and a camera to display a 3D image in the screen in front of you. With this, the researchers hypothesized that those who undergo an exergamic balance training will demonstrate superior measures on postural stability and balance compared to those who undergo a conventional balance training. So there were 20 participants that were recruited from a hospital in Taipei. They were randomized into two groups, 10 participants in the exergamic group and 10 patients in the conventional balance training. All the patients underwent 50 minutes of training per session, 2 sessions per week for 8 weeks. So the methods used for the exergamic balance training group incorporated 4 tasks. The first task, there's an object in the screen right in front of you and you're just trying to reach out for that object. The second task is you're trying to move that object in different areas. The third task is you're trying to avoid the object coming towards you. The fourth task is marching alternatively with each leg, left and right. So the conventional balance training group received similar methods compared to the exergamic, just without the Microsoft Kinect. So they still completed tasks that involved reaching, weight shifting, and marching in place. There were several ways that the outcome measures were assessed, all of which the participants were harnessed into a system to prevent any sort of falls or any sort of fear of falling. The first test that was conducted was a limits of stability test, in which participants stood on a forced platform plate and it tested their center of gravity going different directions and how fast the reaction time is and how well their tracking is in terms of going completely straight or kind of swaying to the side a little bit. The second test is a single leg stance, in which participants would stand on their dominant leg and their non-dominant leg, both of which would include 2 eyes closed trials and 2 eyes open trials. The last 2 tests were the Berg Balance Test and as well as a timed up and go test. All of these tests were performed and conducted pre-training and as well as post-training after the 8 weeks. So from all these tests, did the exergaming group provide superior measures compared to the conventional group? Well, both groups demonstrated significant measures within their own groups. However, there was only one measure that the exergaming group demonstrated significantly different than the control group. So this measure that was different from the exergaming group and the control group was directional control. 100% directional control just meant that if you're standing on a forced platform, and 100% of directional control just meant that going from your center of gravity to a direction, you would just go completely straight. Less than 100% meant that you were kind of swaying, going towards an area. So, exergaming group demonstrated better directional control than the conventional group. There were a few limitations to this study. The first one was the limited amount of their sample size. There were only 10 people in the exergaming group and another 10 in the conventional group. The other limitation to this study was that the baseline performance was high to begin with all the participants, so therefore the post-training measures might be limited.
It was a systematic review conducted in 2014. As a whole, from the total of 19 studies where exergaming therapy was evaluated, 17 demonstrated improvements in the measured outcomes. 7 out of 9 of the randomized clinical trials, the intervention group actually did better than the control group when it came to motor control outcomes. Finally, none of the studies showed that exergaming was in any way worse than traditional physical therapy rehab. Furthermore, the study references that exergaming is in fact safe, reliable, and feasible method for treating people with Parkinson's disease when it's compared with traditional physical therapy rehab. Some of the limitations of this study included the fact that it was a systematic review. There were varying types of levels of evidence included in the study, but also that there were no standardized outcome measures in this research, making it very difficult to determine which exergaming platform and method works best for the specific needs of people with Parkinson's disease.
So through our studies, the researchers found that there's no significant difference in the measures between our experimental group, which underwent exergaming training, compared to our control group.
The third study, the systematic review, also showed that exergaming is safe, reliable, and cost-effective.
Since the research suggests that exergaming will not cause harm to your patients, you can use it in your physical therapy balance training.
Because we know that exergaming is at least as effective as standard physical therapy, it's important to use clinical considerations and patient preferences and discuss with your patient what their preferences are when deciding on whether or not you should use exergaming in your practice.
So Nancy, now that we've discussed the research, would that be something you're willing to try?
I feel like from what you told me, it sounds like it definitely can't hurt, and for me, I might actually benefit from it, so I don't see why not try it out, right?
Yeah, that's great, Nancy, so let's get started.